Hey Drew, I'm just looking at your album cover. Just kind of doing a little bit of experimenting with it. I think it looks pretty good. I do notice that this text is really similar in value to the background, and I just really, if I like zoom out, even with that outer glow that you added of white, it just doesn't pop off as much as it probably should. The same thing goes for this one here. I just think the colors need to contrast more with the background. So with that being said, I did go ahead and bring it into a document that I created, much like the one we set up the other day, 4.75 by 4.75 with 0.125 bleed on it all the way around. 2 pages, uncheck the facing pages box there. And I brought your image in there. And I did try experimenting with basically kind of a creamy white color. It's almost white. And I did put the bevel and emboss on there like you did. And this is the same font I believe that you used, except for it's in the heavy version. That actually doesn't have to be heavy, it could be a different one, but I kind of like the heavy because it does pop off of the background pretty well. And you definitely know with this color that nobody's going to have a hard time actually reading it. And I just don't know if that outer glow that you added is really doing enough to help it pop off. So sometimes it's better to just play it safe and do a color that you know is going to be legible. Another thing about this Alex Bill Mayer text, since it is a kind of an important text on the piece, you may want to take your cursor and put it in between this Y and this E and push Option on your keyboard and use the left arrow key and tab it over twice just to tighten up the kerning between the Y and the E. For some reason there's a lot of space there and it just doesn't look as good as it could, so we could kern that just to make it a little bit cleaner. The kerning on this text is pretty decent, so I don't think we need to do anything there as far as kerning goes. And also just adding in that extra space around and making sure that all the spaces are pretty even the whole way around the edge of your design. Also, when I push W on my keyboard, you can see the bleed line. So you're going to have to continue this image all the way to the bleed line if you haven't already. You can use the free transform tool, pushing shift to size up or size down images. Yours is going to be cropped a little bit differently than mine because I didn't have your bleed included in your PDF, which I will show you how to include a bleed in a PDF here in a minute. But definitely make sure that the image goes all the way to the edge of that red bleed line, all the way around. Page 2, push W. Like I said, I didn't say this earlier actually, there's some issues with the rope. I feel like they shouldn't be getting cropped off. So it's getting clipped here and it's getting clipped here, and it would be ideal if those weren't getting clipped. They need to be, so maybe, I don't know if that's set up in a Photoshop document. You might have to go into your Photoshop document and just size that rope down a little bit and then save your PSD and just bring it back in. With the text layers off like you did before. This Alex, all of this could maybe stay black, all this text, but this text is not matching this text or this text for that matter. So I would make Alex Bill Mayer the same text as this, which I believe is Drunk Cowboy. You can keep it black though. It doesn't have to have a bevel and emboss on it. It's All There could be done in Drunk Cowboy as well, just smaller. Or it would be even better probably to use the same text that you used on the front. You can keep it black, like I said, on the back cover. Being like me, all of these things look pretty good. The only thing is you might have to open up that Photoshop document and lighten up the cow skull a little bit more so that you can read this text better. And another thing that might help is to make this text heavier, to use the heavier version. I'm not quite sure which text you're using there, if it's the same as Let's see. I don't know if it's the same. So it is Dharma Gothic. So it is the same text as what you have up here, which is good. This is Times New Roman, which is fine. I think it's 9 point. So I wouldn't go much smaller than 9 point, but maybe you could put artwork, photographs, Drew Torgerson, and manufactured in the USA. Put these 2 lines on the same line so you get 3 lines. And try and move it out of the darker areas here because it's not going to read well. I actually can't read it myself right now. All rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication is a violation of applicable laws. Okay, I can read it, but once it prints, it might print darker than what it looks like on screen. So that's just make sure that that is out, that black is out of this really dark area here, if possible. So yeah. Other than that, I think this looks really good. One other thing I noticed quickly is that the C here, this cover, the C on the cover should be capitalized. I think everything else is looking pretty good. I don't know if Sundays, yeah, probably S is fine because it's more than singular. It's not singular, it's plural. Okay, and then, yeah, and just make sure on the second page that the images are going, you know, like the background color of the paper texture, and even the ropes are continuing off into the bleed, but just also not cutting off where it's going to be cropped too. So you don't want that cut off where it's cropped, but you do want these lines continuing all the way to the edge of the bleed line on this document. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, and then when you export out your PDF, let me move this over, do a file export, and then let's put it in a folder here. Pretend this is your album folder in your documents, and PDF print, save. I'm going to be replacing this because I already did this once. Make sure it's on high quality print. So make sure range is on all pages. Go to Marks and Bleeds over here and check use document bleed settings. Everything else in the default should be fine. And then push export. Oops. And then if we go into that folder, I can show you the PDF that we just exported has the bleeds included, because when I hover down here in Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat, which is the PDF viewer, it's 5 by 5. And you can see how big that space is there between the sides of the of this image, and that's because the bleed actually goes all the way to, when it actually gets cropped down, it's going to be cropped like right here, probably more like this. So anyway, other than that, this is the file that you should be turning in with the bleeds included. And other than that, that's all the feedback that I have. I think it looks really good. Great job.